Men decide who you are before you speak. That's not a theory. That's not an opinion. It's a biological fact backed by neuroscience, shaped by centuries of cultural programming, and reinforced by everything society whispers and everything it screams. 7 seconds. That's all. In less time than it takes to unlock your phone, he's already made unconscious decisions about your worth, your beauty, your intelligence, your sexuality, your danger, your softness, your value. You haven't moved. You haven't spoken. And still, in those 7 seconds, you've been categorized, labeled, judged. Not because he wants to judge, but because something deeper than him already has. We like to pretend that we're rational creatures, that people evaluate based on character, communication, shared values. But men, like all humans, are running on ancient operating systems. Their instincts process your facial symmetry before your words. Their brains detect posture and eye movement before personality. Their subconscious reads signals you didn't know you were sending. And here lies the uncomfortable paradox. He doesn't know he's doing it. This isn't some malicious plot. It's a reflex. Judgment lives beneath awareness now. And let that sink in. A man meets a woman for the first time. He doesn't hear her voice, doesn't know her story. Yet in seconds, he decides, is she powerful? Is she submissive? Is she wife material? Is she a threat? Is she someone to impress or someone to ignore? And you'll never hear him say it, because he doesn't hear it himself. These judgments are fast, quiet, and deeply rooted in symbols, not facts. Symbols of femininity, fertility, dominance, youth, rebellion, mystery, and control. Your walk, your silence, the way you hold, your shoulders. These become metaphors in his mind, long before they ever become meaning in yours. Now ask yourself, how many decisions in your life were shaped not by truth, but by a man's unseen, unspoken reaction to your presence? How many moments in school, at work, on the street, in love, were quietly redirected by a look you never saw, a thought you never heard, but a judgment that already made up its mind? And deeper still, how much of your identity has been influenced, shaped, or silently rewritten to adapt to those 7 seconds? We are taught that power lies in speaking up, in expression, in fighting to be heard. But what if the real power lies in what happens before you ever speak? What if the battlefield is already built and the war is already half lost before you even arrive? Here's a darker truth. Men are not judging women based on the women in front of them. They're judging based on the ghosts they carry, the media they consumed, the women who hurt them, the ideals they were taught, the mothers they feared or adored, the desires they were never allowed to express. So when he looks at you, he's not just seeing you. He's seeing an entire archive of memory and mythology projected onto your body. You may represent comfort. You may represent danger. You may represent the unknown, the forbidden, the sacred, the disposable. You'll never know exactly which one, and most chilling of all, neither will he. We have inherited a world where women are interpreted before they are understood, reduced to signals before they're recognized as souls. And while the world tells you to be yourself, It forgets to mention that the self you offer is filtered through a lens you don't control. You've spent years becoming someone educated, deep, strong, kind, wise, wild, honest, whole. But in the moment you enter the room, your depth is crushed under the weight of a glance. So here is the real question, not a surface-level question, but an existential one. Who are you when no one truly sees you? Who do you become when others have already decided? And how do you reclaim your truth from minds that judged you before they knew your name? This isn't just about men. It's about the architecture of perception, how we see, how we missee, and how we survive under the pressure of unseen eyes. Before we talk about what men notice, we must understand why they notice the things they do. Not what's visible, but what's beneath the noticing, the engine, the myth, the wound. Because if we don't understand that, we'll keep living in a world where a woman's entire life is decided before her voice ever reaches the air. And that is not a world worth staying silent in. It's easy to blame instinct, evolution, biology. But reductionism is a lazy comfort. The truth is not that men are wired to judge. The truth is that men are taught what to judge long before they know they're learning anything. The moment a boy opens his eyes to the world, he is bombarded by images. Images of what a real woman should look like, what she should sound like, how she should move, smile, flirt, submit, seduce, behave. The screen becomes his first mythology. Disney gives him the innocent, beautiful girl who must be rescued. Hollywood gives him the dangerous, mysterious woman who must be conquered. Pornography gives him the obedient body that exists for his pleasure. Fairy tales, sitcoms, action movies. They all hand him a script before he ever touches reality. So when he grows up and a real woman walks into the room, his judgment doesn't arise from presence. It arises from programming. Carl Jung once said that we do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. And this is the darkness. Most men do not see women as they are. They see women as the unresolved projections of their inner worlds. In Jungian psychology, this is the anima, the unconscious feminine image within a man's psyche. It is not real. It is symbolic. And yet it colors how he perceives every woman he meets. One woman might awaken his inner child's longing for comfort. Another might trigger the suppressed rage of being rejected in high school. Another might symbolize the chaos he fears, power, wildness, unpredictability. But none of this is you. It's his internal theater. And you've just been cast in the leading role without auditioning. Nietzsche warned us that most people are not individuals. They are merely the sum of other people's ideas. If that's true, then many men do not see with their eyes. They see with their conditioning. And here is where the problem deepens. These judgments are not fleeting impressions. They become internal laws. A man may spend his life attracted only to women who match his fantasy, and repelled by those who don't. He may trust softness and punish strength. He may desire beauty but fear depth. He may sexualize confidence, but resent the woman who owns it. Why? Because no one taught him to question the origin of his preferences. No one told him that desire can be distorted, that perception can be a prison, that what feels natural may, in fact, be inherited dysfunction. Now layer this with Arthur Schopenhauer's philosophy that human desire is rooted in a blind, irrational will, a force that drives us without our consent, one that uses rather than serves us. Men don't choose to judge quickly. They are used by an ancient mechanism that values speed over truth, assumption over awareness, image over soul, and women suffer under the weight of that machinery, judged in milliseconds, reduced to roles, forced to perform clarity in a world full of confusion. There is another piece, a quieter one, more dangerous because it hides behind politeness, the cultural obsession with categorization. We want to know, is she a wife or a fling? Is she a threat or a nurturer? Is she safe or chaotic? These are not questions of interest. They are questions of control, because to categorize is to reduce, and to reduce is to contain. The male mind, conditioned to fear uncertainty, seeks simplicity in women, even when complexity is the truth. And so, women are judged for being too much, or too little, too sexual, or too reserved, too emotional, or too cold, too independent, or too needy. This binary trap is a form of psychological violence, soft, subtle, invisible. It punishes the full spectrum of female existence by making it impossible to be enough. Jean-Paul Sartre once argued that we are condemned to be free, thrown into a world without instructions, forced to invent meaning for ourselves. But men often escape that terror of freedom by clinging to inherited maps. They use women as landmarks, symbols that give structure to their chaos, not because they're evil, but because they're afraid of the unknown, afraid of rejection, afraid of themselves. So what do men really notice in those first 7 seconds? They notice what they were told to notice. They notice what they were trained to value, to fear, to desire, to resent. And what they don't notice, what they can't notice, is the truth beneath the performance. They don't see the girl who survived, the woman who rebuilt herself, the soul behind the smile, not unless they've done the brutal, beautiful work of unlearning everything they think they know. Until then, perception remains polluted, the gaze remains broken, and women remain missing, not as individuals, but as reflections of a man's unresolved psyche. So the real question is not just what do men see, but rather, what ancient fears, fantasies, and forces are using their eyes to see you? And until that question is answered, judgment will continue to disguise itself as instinct, and women will continue to be trapped inside a script they never wrote. But what does this mean, really, practically, for everyday life? How does this subconscious theater shape the relationships, power structures, and emotional lives we walk through daily without ever realizing we're inside an illusion? There comes a moment, rare, unsettling, and irreversible, when the illusion begins to crack. You're standing in front of a mirror, not the kind that reflects your image, but the kind that reflects your existence. And for the first time, you realize you have not been living as yourself. You have been living as someone else's perception of you, not just one man's, but the collective weight of centuries of projection, layered, inherited, unspoken. Your movements, your voice, your clothes, your smile were never neutral. They were always being interpreted, filtered, graded, categorized. And slowly, painfully, you begin to ask, who am I when I am not being watched? That is the ultimate truth, because every system of judgment, every primal instinct, every cultural script is designed to keep your identity tethered to how you are seen, not how you are when men judge women in seconds. It is not just a psychological glitch. It is the symptom of a world that has made visibility more important than essence. In this world, the gaze defines the woman. In this world, silence can feel like erasure. And in this world, to be seen clearly, without distortion, is a revolutionary act. But here's the paradox that breaks the illusion wide open. You were never made to be understood by the male gaze. You were never designed to fit the archetypes, the projections, the roles. You were never born to be measured by instincts shaped in caves or ideals built by screens. You were never meant to be seen. You were meant to be. The final, most powerful realization is this: you are not a reaction. You are not the product of their perception. You are not what is noticed. You are what exists, regardless of who is watching. And yet, for so long, you've been trained to perform visibility, to smile at the right time, to appear approachable but not easy, to dress confidently but not threateningly, to speak your mind but not too loudly, to be strong but not so strong that it disrupts the narrative. But none of those masks were made for you. They were made for them, for their comfort, their understanding, their need to classify. Here's the deeper philosophical shift. The opposite of being judged isn't being liked. It's being free, and freedom doesn't mean escaping judgment. It means being untouchable by it. It means understanding at the core of your being that the 7-second scan was never about you. It was always about them, their hunger, their wounding, their fear of complexity. You were never truly seen, and that's their blindness, not your burden. Viktor Frankl, who survived the worst kind of dehumanization imaginable, once wrote, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." That same principle applies here. Between their gaze and your reaction, there is a space. In that space, you reclaim yourself. You do not have to shrink to fit their attention. You do not have to contort yourself to become legible to the male mind. You do not need to decode or manipulate how you are seen. Because the most dangerous woman in any room is the one who has stopped performing for male recognition, not in defiance, but in liberation. She is not trying to be desired. She is trying to be real. And when a woman becomes real, when she stops being a character in someone else's story and becomes the author of her own, the entire structure of quick judgment begins to dissolve. Because the male mind that seeks to judge now finds no container, no clear role, no predictable pattern. And in that moment, something rare happens. He has to look again. Not with instinct, not with projection, but with curiosity. And if he's brave enough, maybe even with reverence. But even if he doesn't, even if the world continues to look at you through broken lenses, It no longer defines you, because now you know the value of a woman does not exist in the eye that sees her, but in the being that remains when all eyes turn away. So stop asking, what do they see when they look at me? Start asking, what remains untouched by their gaze? That invincible core is the place where no judgment can reach. And it is there, in that silent, sacred space, that your power begins. This is not about men anymore. It never really was. It's about the quiet revolution of becoming yourself in a world that insists on telling you who to be. And when you stand in that truth, unyielding, unapologetic, unfiltered, you become something that no one in 7 seconds or 70 years can define. You become real.